how do people know when it's time to look at assisted living and then actually place a loved one in assisted living?
When your loved one is truly experiencing challenges where they can't independently care for themselves, it's time to take a look at care in general. It's never too early to learn about your options throughout the whole aging process and identify, what might be some options to consider, whether it be now or down the line. But basically, medicine management tends to be the key mitigating factor when you're looking at alternatives, because oftentimes you have a loved one that is not taking their medicine on a regular basis, not taking food with their medicine, and there are lapses in that. And those chemicals in our bodies are to be regulated for a reason, to get the most optimal benefit out of it. So usually when someone transitions from an independent living situation or possibly a home situation, medicine management is part of that consideration.
That's such a good point. A lot of people that I know of that are receiving care, or that at least they're making plans for care, plan on, you know what, I'm going to stay at home as long as possible. I want to receive care at home. But we got to think it may not be realistic for you to stay at home forever. There might be at some point, it might make more sense to transition from home care into an assisted living community. And that medicine management is a really important piece of that puzzle. What are some even other things to consider? I would imagine, if someone is receiving 24/7 care at home, Miriam, that's probably going to get pretty darn expensive. And even at that point, people might consider, even if it's not 24/7 care, maybe it's, 12 hours a day. Does it make sense to move to a community, or even the socialization? Can you talk about that? I know that's really important too.
Sure. I mean, for every family, it's different. We're not born into this world to be caregivers. We are daughters, sons, and loved ones of family members. And it varies from family to family as to what might be the triggering point for them to consider assisted living. Mm-hmm. However, you have brought up some really good points, when it comes to the economics of things. Mm-hmm. Your home care, private duty home care service is going to be somewhere in the ballpark of $30 to $35 an hour. If you're doing 4 hours, just 4 hours a day for 7 days a week, you're up into the $3,000, $4,000 mark per month for that care. And the family starts to question themselves as to, $3,000, $4,000 for an additional $1,000. I can get my loved one into a community possibly and have 24/7 care available at the touch of a fingertip, or, the door knocking regularly every 2 hours for someone checking on their loved one. So there comes that point where it just is more economically feasible. Mm-hmm. And then you also have the mitigating factor of managing that home care service. You have Bonnie from Home Care Agency X coming to your home, but when Bonnie has to call off because she has a situation at her own home, you're calling the home agency, and it takes time for them to either possibly get someone out to replace Bonnie, or they are just going to say, we can't provide that care today. Well, when you're in an assisted living community situation, if Bonnie were to call off, yes, that is compromising to the staff overall care levels, but Susie down the hall can cover for Bonnie until that replacement can be made. So there's a lot more flexibility and hands on deck in a community situation that can provide that additional support and care for your loved one when those challenges do come up. So, there's also overnight care can be more expensive. Mm-hmm. Weekend care can be more expensive. And then just the overall challenges of what hours of the day is mom or dad or your loved one going to need the most care? Is it in the morning or in the evening? A lot of times we talk with families that they were like, well, we'd like to have 45 minutes in the morning and then, another hour or two in the evening. And that finds it very difficult for personal care service to come to the home for those times of day throughout the day, leaving and coming back without paying for the time in between. So it can be very challenging and, daunting to try to navigate that. And there's a lot of really great benefits to community living. You had brought up the isolation aspect of things, in a home environment. While you are surrounded by the love and care of your family and the familiarities of your home that you've lived in for many years, there is that sense of isolation and, just being left alone during those off time hours of not receiving care or people coming in and out. When you're in a community environment, you are socializing with other residents your age, with residences that are maybe experiencing the same types of challenges that you are in a dining room setting, just engaging in meals with other people, maybe participating in an activity, or even just coming down to the lobby area when entertainment is being presented, which typically is once a week. Just coming out of your room and, having that opportunity for engagement with others is just tremendous. That's all part of healthy living. A lot of people, think that those things don't matter, but the really nuts and bolts of things, medicine management, socialization, eating healthy meals in a timely fashion, those all contribute to our overall health and well-being.
I totally agree. I think the social health is often not considered very much as we age. Yeah. And, people think about the physical, the mental, the emotional health, spiritual health, but the social health is really important. If you've got an older adult that is isolated, that can lead to depression really quickly. And so what do we see? If someone is depressed, then often their physical health goes down. And so then they're not able maybe to take care of themselves. So if you are in a community where you have that opportunity for socialization, maybe you're not a social butterfly, but at least if you have the opportunity and it's there, you might be more willing to go down the hall, and talk to Betty or talk to so-and-so, sit with other people at a table, have a meal, have a conversation. That's really going to contribute to a better overall health, for the long haul.
I agree. And even just, having your door open, there's a lot of times we walk down the halls in our communities and, it's kind of like when you have your door open, it's like an open invitation, right? For someone to peek in and say hello or just, how you doing today? That kind of thing. And just knowing that there are other people on the other side of the door that care about you is really important and does energize a lot of people.
Right. When I had another podcast guest on in the beginning of my podcast, and one of the things he talked about, like with an assisted living community, he's like, it's like going back to college. You got your buddies down the hall, you've got activities, and there's all these things to do. And it's, it is a really good point because again, that socialization, it's an important factor in aging well. And I think aging gracefully. And it's not to be, swept under the rug. Like that definitely needs to be something considered when we're talking about getting a plan for extended care in the future for yourself and for your loved ones is how are you going to, really take care of yourself in that social aspect too. So I think that's really important.
Especially when a spouse passes away and you're left alone, that's a critical time for families to reassess and figure out, what is this going to do in the overall well-being of the loved one that is still living. That is often difficult. And then we always encourage our families to, like you say, plan ahead, but also prepare and make this transition sooner rather than later. You don't want to make the transition when, your loved one is already experiencing a large amount of their time spent in bed. They're unable to be able to get up and be mobile. That is difficult in and of itself, let alone coming into a foreign environment at that point. Embrace it. Coming in and enjoying what the community has to offer is all part of it.
That's a really good point because I think a lot of families look at this further down in the process where it's, okay, something happened. Maybe you were receiving care at home. It's not safe for mom or dad to be at home anymore, or they are really depressed. There's signs of depression. Maybe they're on medication. And so it's like, we got to do something quick. And making this fast decision, whereas you're saying, maybe we need to consider this sooner than what some families actually consider. It doesn't need to be a crisis event. There should be some pre-planning here.